Hola, hola, my name is Ramon, cosmetic formulator, esthetician, and Korean sunscreen fanatic. And honestly, today's video doesn't need much of an intro. If you guys remember, at the end of last year, there was a little bit of situation around Korean sunscreens. One specific brand kind of was the catalyst for all that to go down. And here we are roughly 10 months later with a relaunch from that very brand. Here we are talking about Purito's daily go-to sunscreen SPF 50 plus PA4 pluses. And before you even ask, here on the screen you can see they did do a couple of third-party tests, and you can see that the sunscreen does in fact exceed SPF 50 plus PA4 plus. And even within those results, you can see there's a good amount of disparity, which goes back to sunscreen testing in itself is a very peculiar science, and I have a couple videos talking about it, which I'll have up in the cards. But also, I had someone mention this in, I think it was a TikTok or another YouTube video about Purito being canceled. They're not. A lot of people want this review. A lot of people are very, very excited for this launch. I personally think Purito handled that whole situation really, really well. I think they owned up to their mistake. They definitely held themselves accountable, and here we are talking about their new sunscreen. This is technically a hybrid sunscreen, aka a combination sunscreen. It does utilize chemical and mineral UV filters, so I'm going to be using my 4B testing rubric. You're going to see in the application footage, I take 0.8 grams of the product, which is how much I need for my face size. I have a whole video talking about how to measure your face to estimate roughly how much sunscreen you need. I'll have that up here in the cards, and I let that sit. You can see on the initial application, first of all, there's no white cast on this, at least on me. The minute it goes on my skin, it just kind of melts in. But what you notice is that there's a lot of radiance to it. And so what I appreciate about this is the texture of this is super lightweight. They actually launched this in tandem with a gel oat moisturizer. They actually have very, very similar textures. This, the minute it works into your skin, it becomes like a water gel cream, but it's just very, very radiant. And you can see I actually leave it on my face for roughly 10 to 15 minutes to see if it does set before I go in with makeup, and it stays radiant. It doesn't claim to be matte. It doesn't claim to have like a normal finish. It's just a very radiant sunscreen, but it's not greasy, at least to me. The comparison I'm gonna make is with the Black Girl sunscreen, the original one in the black packaging. They have similar finishes, but the Black Girl sunscreen, that is a very emollient, leaning on greasy sunscreen. Like, it's too rich for me. I can't use that. This, it has a very similar finish to that. You look wet, you look juicy, you look radiant, but it's not heavy on the skin. I find there's very, very little emolliency to it. It's not greasy. I put makeup on top of this, and when I do that, I actually blot half my face because, again, it's very radiant. Sometimes I don't want that. It can translate a certain type of way if your base is too radiant and you do makeup on top and you have oily skin. So I blot half my face and then I go in with makeup. This day I specifically did like a little bit of a matte concealer and then powder foundation. I did an 8 to 9 hour wear test this day, I think. And at the end of those 8 to 9 hours, both sides are radiant. What I will say is the blotted side looks a little bit better than the non-blotted side. The blotted side did maintain greasiness. And so what I will say is that this is a sunscreen that I do have to touch up, powder, blot throughout the day. If not, it does not translate amazingly on my oily skin. But again, it's not heavy, it's not greasy. This is one I could see using to reapply throughout the day, but with consistent touch up as well. Getting into the product breakdown, just because I know a lot of people are definitely concerned or have a lot of questions about how this compares to the Centella Green Level and overall if they can trust this sunscreen. Bottom line, yes, 100%. And I have a lot of videos talking about this again, but kind of breaking down what this specific product looks like. UV filter wise, you have 4 in this one. You have Tinosorb S, Uvinol T150, titanium dioxide, so again, this is a hybrid sunscreen, and Uvinol A+. And so you have a pretty good breakdown all across the spectrum. They actually have a chart on their website kind of showing you generally where those UV filters lie in the UV absorption spectrum and how they like come together. But you have the full spectrum covered, and you have really, really good solid stable UV filters. And the thing with the titanium dioxide, and you're probably wondering like why they put this in a sunscreen when that has the potential for a white cast, is the fact that going back to the controversy last year, what brands were doing was they were taking base formulations that certain manufacturers had, where those base formulations when originally tested did meet the advertised SPF, and they are adjusting formulas to that they can have their own formula, but they can also have specific qualities they want out of a sunscreen. What would happen is the original formulas that did test at advertised SPF featured titanium dioxide, but then the final versions that were launched didn't. And omitting a UV filter like titanium dioxide will obviously have an impact on the final SPF value. So titanium dioxide, while it's a little bit of a finicky filter in terms of like it can leave a white cast, does a lot to adjust and meet the advertised SPF values on a sunscreen. So I can understand why they did it, just because it probably was just very easy for them to do and include in formula and have it be very, very cheap, I think. And it goes back to, is it brown skin friendly? I don't know if it's nano titanium dioxide or not, but that is why it is in this, if you're wondering. And then aside from that, again, this is actually a fairly simple, straight to the point formulation. There's a good amount of emollients in this, although you don't feel that in the texture. It just looks very shiny. And then you have Centella asiatica extract, as well as madecassoside and azioticoside. So you're getting Centella, a couple of other derivatives. And with that, you're just getting the really soothing anti-inflammatory benefits of the Centella, as well as potential anti antioxidant benefits as well. But not a lot going on here, but it's just a very nice, simple, straight to the point sunscreen. So getting into the 4B testing rubric, where I mentioned how the sunscreen wears with beard, beading, beats, and brown skin friendly. First B is beard, how it wears in facial hair, hairline, eyebrows. The concern with this is that it does have titanium dioxide in it, which anytime I see a mineral filter, especially with facial hair, I get very concerned. But this wears beautifully in the facial hair area. There's no white cast, there's no weird clumping at all. Very elegant texture. Second B is beading. Is there weird texture on application? Does it play nicely with skincare? Does it pill up? I find this pairs well with all skincare. There's no texture issues with this, but when it comes to how it looks on the skin type has to come into a factor. I have oily skin. I will wear this by itself, potentially with a hydrator, and that's it. This is nicely moisturizing for me. I feel this might be a really great option for dry skin as well, but realistically, at most, you might need a lightweight moisturizer underneath this, but I think this is a very moisturizing formula, but it does play well with a lot of skincare underneath or very little skincare underneath. You just need to balance where you are skin type wise. Beat, how it preps for makeup, how it affects makeup wear, and how it affects the makeup application process. Again, this is a radiant sunscreen. What I appreciate is that it's not greasy, because sometimes when you have really greasy makeup and you're applying makeup, your brushes get all clumpy and it affects the makeup application and things can separate and whatnot. Overall, because it's moisturizing, it preps the skin really, really well. And it's super lightweight, so it's not like a really thick occlusive layer, so it's not affecting like makeup not sticking to your skin. But having oily skin, and this leaves you a very radiant finish, I blot and or prime on top of this, and I use matte products, and I will blot and powder throughout the day. One way I really love to use this actually is I'll take like a regular sunscreen I really love, and then I'll use this as a like sunscreen on the high points of my face where I don't mind the shine, so like top of the cheekbones, parts of my forehead, like brow bone, just because it kind of is like an illuminating, like radiant primer underneath makeup, because that radiance does show throughout the day. So I have to be very careful with how I use this, but I do like how it preps, and because it is so lightweight, I like the way it looks on the skin underneath makeup, especially if I use like powder foundation and I don't mind blotting throughout the day. And then brown skin friendly, what I think a lot of people are very interested in and want to know about because of that additional mineral filter, which even on me sometimes titanium dioxide can be a little, As you can see on me, this is a beautiful sunscreen. It looks amazing, and I had no issues with white cast, and I actually had to make sure there was a mineral filter in this. And then I had to wonder then, how would it look on deeper skin? Because that's always a concern. I was looking around because as of right now when I'm filming this, there was no deeper skin creators that had posted like an actual review and application footage on them. But my friend Julian, aka Scamander14 on Instagram, he reached out to me when we were talking about it, and he was like, oh, I love this. It looks great on me. You can see here on screen, I'm gonna have his picture up. You can see on his skin, it looks amazing. There's no white cast, and it has a nice radiance on him, but that's something he really likes. He has combo oily skin, but he loves the radiance. He loves the way it looks on his skin. And again, no white cast, which I am very shocked by. If you don't follow Julian, make sure you do. He has really great reviews, but also a very thorough like sunscreen resource guide, which depending on what you're looking for from a sunscreen, he has all that information laid out for you. So make sure you do follow him on Instagram. I'll have that down below in the description box. You can see Julian also has very deep skin, and it looks amazing on him. So is this brown skin friendly? 110% yes. But that leads me to the next point of the titanium in this. I don't know if it's nano or not because it looks amazing on Julian, and the texture of this is so lightweight and it doesn't affect facial hair at all, but I have to wonder. But the texture of this is elegant and it looks amazing on a very diverse shade of skin tone. So good job, Purito. Good job. And then in terms of how it compares to the Centella Green Level Safe Sun, it has Centella in it. It has no fragrance, which I actually am really sad about. I love the fragrance of the Centella Green Level. My boyfriend does too. And we would use the unscented and scented version side by side. And it was just kind of like the scent, that lavender scent, added an extra layer of like enjoyment out of using the product. So I wish this had a scent. I'm one of very few people probably who is thinking that right now, but this doesn't have any smell to it at all. This also has no essential oils and no alcohol too, so that's good to note. And then in terms of texture, I think in my opinion, the Centella Green Level Safe Sun was just a little bit more rich. It had a little bit more like of an emollient quality to it, whereas this one is a little bit more true to form like water gel, but this has a more radiant finish than the Green Level Safe Sun. That's my main comparison between the two, and I think that's the primary differences. My boyfriend's comments on the product is just that this has like a tackier skin feel to it, and that maybe that's why I like it with makeup a lot, but I don't have that same opinion. To me, it's not tacky or sticky, and again, to me, it's very lightweight gel cream, but when I use this, I use it by itself on freshly cleansed skin or over a very light hydrator. And with that, that is my opinion and my thoughts and review on the Purito Daily Go-To Sunscreen SPF 50+. I think they actually did a really good job at coming back from what happened last year and making a really great product. product. They have done their best to really confirm and really ease any concerns over whether or not this will adequately protect. Again, this does exceed the advertised SPF on there. They use really great filters. What I really like the most though is the fact that they did what they had to do with the filters to get the adequate SPF, and even with that, it is still very, very brown skin friendly, deep skin friendly. Plus, I think the price point on this is actually fairly adequate. It's 60 ml and I believe it's $16 last I checked. So I think this is a hit, but just know that if you have oily skin, this is radiance. You will look wet. I don't think personally this is very greasy, so I think that's the only like plus in that regard. If you have dry skin, I think this will be great for you. I think a really good relaunch. I just can't wait to see if they come out with other options. I want to see a mineral option to kind of be the new version of their Comfy Water, and I just want like a more oily skin friendly version of this, but I'll take what I can get. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, notification bell, so that you know when I post more skincare, sunscreen, and Fenty related content on my channel. Give the video a thumbs up, and down below in the comments let me know, have you tried this? What your thoughts are on it? Is your opinion different than mine? I definitely love to hear what you guys have to say, and also what else are you waiting for from Perito sunscreen wise? Let me know. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.